As we said before, we're back 30 minutes. Hope you had a break. Hope you had a chance to get up, stretch your limbs. I've been standing up. I don't have a chair for my office, so everything I do, I'm standing up. So I stood up for the last hour and a half. I took a little break, a little intermission, and I'm gonna be standing up the whole time. So when you see me doing like this right here, I'm just just trying to bear, bend and grin and bear it and shift and so forth and so on. Standing up for 2 hours is not something I normally do, um, unless I was in a marching band, and that was so long ago. But anyway, glad you all could make it back. I see some of you in the chat already. Natasha, I see you. Uh, D, I see you as well. And Tanya Vaughn, I see you. And I see some of you are starting to trickle in. We just finished up our last show, Tech Stocks and Jobs. If you missed out, you missed that show. That was a good show. I think it was a good show. Where we talked about being an accredited investor, where we talked about different platforms you can invest in, rental properties. We also talked about whether or not different just different ways to be an accredited investor, non-accredited investors. I also want to do a difference on syndication and funds, creating a fund and a syndication. I didn't go into family office like I wanted to, but that's okay though because we could talk about that anytime. It's our show. I can go on Clubhouse and talk about it or whatnot, right? But we do have a special guest today, but I'm gonna do an intro, and then we're gonna get into the guest, and then we're gonna bring our guest up. Have your questions ready, uh, and thoughts or what have you and whatnot. See Casey, I see you out there. All right. So for those who don't know, as we start off this particular show, we are Women in Linux. I'm Tam. D is in the background. We do have a special guest today who's in the background. I'm not gonna say who that is. The spectacular, the debonair. He's back there. I see you. I see you smile. I see you. I see you. I see you. I see you. All right. So let's get started. We are Women in Linux. You can find us across social media, everything Women in Linux, including Clubhouse. We are still working on the Patreon. If you do not keep up with us, you can keep up with us in a multi-faceted way, especially on meetup.com, where we have our posting of everything on meetup.com for whatever shows that we're going to do. I have not posted this stuff for like when we're going to go live on Clubhouse and all of that stuff because we just kind of started. I'm just still trying to fill it out. I only did like 2 or 3 rooms, but they're random, right? They're just like, hey, let me just start up a Clubhouse, see what people talking about, and as Dion say, fake caring about these days, and get people ideas, thoughts, where they at in tech, what they're looking for, what you're interested in, where we at in tech, what is Women in Linux doing, and so forth, right? It's just a way for those that don't want to come on screen, right? They don't want to come up and ask questions, and so forth, right? So we do that. And then if you also want to connect with us throughout social media, you can also connect with us on Slack. We have our own Slack group. Drop down, put your email address in, join us at Women in Linux. Well, I post everything from jobs to we have recruiters in there. Let me see. I think the last time I checked, we were at 2,900 and something. Let me see where we're at because I saw some people come trickling in, and we may be a little bit more. Let me look. Let me look. Let me see. 2,916. All right. So let's at least get us up to 3,000. If y'all hear this, if you're not a part of our Slack, at least help us get to 3,000. It's no cost to you, right? It only costs you maybe an email address and an application on your desktop. Slack is best used on your desktop, but we got over 90 different channels in there. We got a channel in there for talking about creating wealth. We have a channel for Terraform study. We have a channel for RCSA, excuse me, data center, whatever the case may be, whatever I could touch my hands on in terms of knowledge and tech, I try to create a channel for it and flood the channel with information so you can stay up to date with it, so you can stay up to date on who's doing what and why, where, and how, right? And if you want to donate, you don't have to donate with us with just your money. You can donate with your time. You can come, excuse me, and do a show. If you don't want to do a show, you can talk about your yourself. If you don't want to talk about yourself, you can talk about like what Alice is doing today. Is talking about different agile and at an actual conference as well too, right? So just different things that you could do. And if you don't want to do any of that, you can donate by clicking on the donate button. Click here, boom, donate. And also, you can also do Zelle. You will have to get in contact with D in order to do that. All right. So, nevertheless, we do have a guest that's in the background. I don't know how long I know Alex now. I don't know. I don't know. I know it's been at least a minimum. It's been a minimum of 3 years, so it's probably been like 5 years now. About 5 years now. Um, I probably get on his nerves. He, he I probably get on a lot of people's nerves. He probably get on people's nerves or whatnot. Let me tell you about Alex before I bring him to the stage. Steve. Alex is a cool guy. We actually met in person at a conference in Minnesota. It was cold. It was cold. We ate. It ain't much you can do in the cold when it's bleeding outside and you're walking and in Minnesota walking around like, oh, they're supposed to snow today. Oh, okay. Well, let me get me something to eat. And do I want to walk in the snow or do I not want to walk in the snow? It's like one of them things, right? When you're meeting at these conferences, you got to pick your poison. How far do I have to walk to get to the conference? And how long am I going to be there? And do they have food when I get there, or do I have to leave that location to go get me something to eat? It's a lot of factors that go into that. So you got to pick your poison on that. All right, so I'm gonna bring Alex to the stage, Alex Bernardin, and you could, if I slaughtered that after we went over that like 3 times, I'm just gonna call you Alex JB. Welcome to the stage, Alex JB. Thank you for coming up. Thank you
Thank
for rocking
you.
out this weekend.
Thank
Tell
you.
people a little bit about yourself, and if I slaughtered your name, I apologize. I told you I'm against knifer of names.
That's your superpower, breaking names. There you go.
It is.
So, I pronounce my name Alex Bernardin. If you're French or Haitian, I'm of Haitian descent. So if you're of Haitian descent, you can pronounce it Bernardin, and I'll be very impressed. But most people in
Do
the
that one
states,
more time.
Bernardin.
Okay.
But in the States, it's Bernardin, and that's fine. Um, and yes, I think you're right about the timing. I think it's been about 5 years. It was the Blacks in Technology Conference in the Twin Cities where we met in person, but we spent a lot of time on the Slack trying to educate the youngins and getting on each other's nerves and calling people out for being shady, all that good stuff.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, who am I? I am I've been in the tech industry doing mostly web-oriented application work for 20 something years. I got started in the mid 90s when the web was born, and there were not very many brown and black people in the space. There's a lot more now, and a lot of what I'm trying to do these days is get more of them. And so a lot of where I'm putting my side energy is in supporting folks who are coming from underrepresented groups, especially women, especially BIPOC, to get in and feel comfortable and feel like the tech industry has a space for them and they can do it, and just feel empowered to go forth and be their best selves, because we need more of us. We need more of you.
Yeah. And we talk about it all the time, from um from a perspective of confidence. We see that a lot. All right, confidence. And I'm not talking about confidence in the job. I'm just talking about confidence in self. Confidence just to say I'm going to apply for the job. If you've noticed lately, I don't know if a lot of people have noticed, a lot of the jobs are saying, "Hey, ladies," they're being intentional. They're saying, "Hey, ladies, even if you don't think you have 70% of the
Wow,
skills
nice,
here,
nice.
still apply." They're like, it's intentional. So that if somebody is being that intentional, that just lets you know what they're seeing. They're not seeing any women candidates come through. And I was just on a call on a live stream the other day, and a guy was he does help desk. He hires for the help desk, and he was like, he may get one, maybe two applicants every 2 or 3 months that is a woman applying for the help desk. So I'm like, where are y'all applying to if you're not doing the help desk at a minimum? All right,
Yeah.
when they're not even seeing you at the help desk, so what? Help me out. Where you at? I'm just trying to help. I'm trying to figure it out.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But I know you didn't come here to talk about my rants and raves.
Well, one of the reasons that I'm here is because I'm co-chairing a conference this year, and I was involved in the planning committee last year as well. And part of the intention with this organization is to bring in new faces. It's a small organization. They just really have a board. Nobody's getting paid, but they've been running this conference for 15 years, and it's considered really, really not only not successful, but it's considered one where a lot of people in the space who do a lot of big thinking, they go and spend time at this conference. And part of what they were discussing amongst the board is, well, it's a very homogenous group. We're just seeing the same faces, and it's the Pacific Northwest. So it's a lot of white guys. And they really said, like, we want more faces. How do we get more faces of different backgrounds, different experiences, different perspectives? And so that's a lot of what I'm trying to do, is just pack the house with people who've never been there before, people who haven't considered this as a thing that they would do, especially women, especially BIPOC. So I'm reaching out to all different communities to say, like, hey, here's this thing. Like, if you're interested in this, you should come check it out. It's very affordable, and it's a great opportunity to have small group conversations with people who have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge and who are writing books. These are like published authors in the space. These are big thinkers, and you can be in a group of 12 having a conversation with them. And that's an amazing opportunity.
Right. And what's the name of the conference?
So the name of the conference is Agile Open Northwest.
Right.
And if you go to agileopennorthwest.org, you can see the basic info about it. This is a conference that has happened historically. It's switched between Seattle and Portland, hence Northwest, so Northwest United States. And it would alternate between Seattle and Portland. And this is for people who are working as Agilists. So maybe they're Agile coaches, maybe they're Scrum masters, maybe a lot of times they're consultants who work as Scrum masters, Agile coaches, project managers, Kanban leaders, whatever those titles are. And so people who work in those spaces who are trying to figure out new adaptations of Agile approaches, or, hey, I'm trying to figure out how we address this particular challenge with Kanban. I want to know how we scale Scrum to work for more than X number of teams. So this conference is a place for people to come together and just share their thoughts and have conversations. Some of what is really bounding it is that it's intentionally a small conference. They used to cap the attendance at 300 people. And so it would sell out every year. And it was like a waiting list situation every year because it's a small group. It's a chance to have intimate conversations. Since the pandemic, last year, we said, okay, let's do this virtually. And that worked out really well. This year, because of some uncertainty around the variants, not surprising, we decided to do virtual again. And what that means is it's an opportunity for a lot more folks to get in there. You don't have to fly to Seattle. You don't have to fly to Portland. It's only $60 plus fees. Historically, it was a couple $100. We're doing 3 half days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So 9 to 1 Pacific time, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, on the last week of March 28th, 29th, and 30th. In the afternoons, then, what we're doing is we're creating spaces for people to connect informally. So we're going to have some cool stuff using this technology called Kiko, Q-I-Q-O, that lets us make different spaces really fluidly. And there's going to be, I think there's going to be some musical performance. There might be like some magic trick training. There might be some other things, because our theme is Agile is art. And so we want to create some space for people to just connect and meet one another and play and just have fun and talk.
Right.
that was a lot about the conference. But I also realized in talking to different groups that a lot of people don't know what an open space conference is, or
And
an
even before you do that,
unconference. Yeah.
some people don't know what you mean when you say an agile
Mm.
scrum master or an agile coach. You want to give any insight on that, or you want to do the open space first?
I can give some quick insight about Agile. I can talk about Agile for hours. To do it
I'm giving you the floor.
to do it concisely, I'll ask folks actually to chime in the comments. So if people post comments, then I can see it in the little side doodad, right? Oh wait, you're muted. I don't hear you.
Yeah, if
Okay.
you want to see it, you can pull it up on YouTube. You just have to mute yourself, and you can respond there as well too.
Okay, cool. So I'm always just curious to know who is familiar with Agile and who is not. So I'd love to I'd love to see if folks are or are not. Just chime in. But Agile is an approach to how we think about our work, how we think about our teams. It was first presented as a concept a few decades ago, and it was really intentioned as stepping away from what was seen as the traditional way of organizing work, because traditional ways of organizing work in software land was based very much on kind of engineering principles as well as business principles. And the thought was, you plan your work, you verify the plan, you do the plan, you check your work, and then you're done, and the thing is finished and it goes out. And that was how things were run for a long time. It's still how things are run in some spaces. A set of folks, bunch of old white dudes, as it is, got together and said, "Hey, this doesn't seem to be serving us very well. We think there's a better way." And the better way came down to a combination of values and principles, which really centered around, hey, let's prioritize people more than we prioritize process. And let's prioritize adaptation and addressing changes rather than prioritizing sticking to the plan. Because what they saw was that when you're building something and you haven't built it before, sticking to the plan can mean that you build the wrong thing. It means you can build something that's not useful and not valuable. And so they said, well, that's not serving us. What would serve us better is if we were more adaptable. And so that's really the foundation of Agile. And it's evolved since then, thank goodness. The way that it manifests in places like DevOps is that it has to do with recognizing that there's a work stream, right? Like there's work requests, there's work needs that are continually being identified, and that the team needs to be able to respond to those really efficiently. And so how do we set up a system that allows for incoming work to get identified, prioritized, so that people can be executing on it, stay focused, and then also that the group, the team who's responsible for the work, is regularly kind of checking in and having conversations about how do we work as a group? How are we effective, and how could we be more effective? Like, what could we be doing that would make us more effective as a group? And that's another essential part of Agile, is to recognize that the people doing the work will be the best ones to have insights about how they could work more efficiently, more effectively, and just better. In a sustainable way, with respect to quality standards, and all of those things that ultimately results in really good work being done, really good products being built. That's kind of the fundamentals of Agile as a concept. Some of the most common things that get conflated when people say the word Agile is Scrum and Kanban. Scrum is an approach to organizing your work, usually for feature teams building software functionality and features. And the key elements that you'll hear people talk about with Scrum is that they organize their work in 2-week cycles. So they do sprints. 2 weeks is a very common cycle time for sprints. At the beginning of the sprint, they plan out, they agree, this is what we're going to try to accomplish in this 2 weeks. Then the team does their work, they execute, they check in every day, they have frequent check-ins to say, like, how are we doing? How are we doing? How are we doing? End of that 2-week cycle, they get back together, they say, okay, did we get done what we thought we were going to get done? And how do we feel about that? Did it go well? And then they have a moment when they pause and they say, okay, is there anything we should change about how we're working? Are we still working on the right things? And are there things that we could be doing better? And so that very rhythmic approach is Scrum. And that most often applies to folks who are doing functionality and feature work, what you might have called projects in another context. And sometimes they still call it projects. Kanban manifests more in like a DevOps environment because it facilitates reactive work. It does not commit to time cycles. The idea is there's always a stack of work and you're always taking off the top. But it does incorporate a regular check-in cadence, and it incorporates a regular kind of retrospective is another common term where the group pauses again to say, how are we doing? What could we be doing better? So Scrum and Kanban are very, very frequently conflated with Agile. Agile is broader than either of those two things. There are a whole bunch of other approaches that fall under the umbrella of Agile, but it's very trendy, certainly right now in Silicon Valley in California, where I am, and in other industries as well. It's getting trendy to say, oh, we're doing Agile. Yeah, man. Yeah, we're Agile. We're using Agile, I see, Tam, you're asking, well, what about Safe Agile? So Safe is an approach to using Agile approaches or using Agile approaches at a larger scale. Okay, Agile's great for when you have a certain number of teams, maybe 5 to 10 teams. But when you have 20 teams, 30 teams, 40 teams, how do you organize all of that work? It's kind of a bigger scale because the approaches that work at the Scrum scale, when you're talking about a team organizing their work in 2-week cycles, doesn't work so well when you need to coordinate across multiple teams. And so SAFE is what we call a framework that got proposed and has now been structured. I think it's fairly formal. It's one of the more structured ones. And so they have explicit version numbers. And so I think they're up to like SAFE 4 or something like that. And it creates a whole structure for tracking these larger initiatives that incorporate multiple teams. And it has this notion of, I am not trained in SAFE, but from what I've heard of it, there's like this notion of planning at a monthly, quarterly, even yearly scale. And so SAFE is a kind of building upon of something like a Scrum. Less is another version of that. There are all of these, buzzwords and frameworks out there that you'll hear in spaces. Does that help?
Yes, that helps. I was
Cool.
waiting for D to bring me back up. So the other part,
You're still here? I had a moment. I was like, oh, Tam dropped me. All right. I just got to roll with it. Just going to talk. Just talk.
Nah, I'm still here. No, I wanted you to have the spotlight so people could understand, agile, safe agile, the differences between Kanban and even we didn't. I don't know if you talked about it or not, but when we start getting into sprints and epics and task and what does that look like and the Fibonacci sequence and some people do 2-week sprints, some people do 3-week sprints, some people do week sprints. I think week sprints is relatively hard if if you're only doing one ticket that's late, maybe like 3 points, 5 points, maybe 2 tickets that's 3 points. But when you start getting into tickets that's 8 points, you're not.
So here's the funny thing about the time, like what time you set. 2 weeks is considered really, really common. It's kind of the default. And the reason for that is kind of a human psychology thing. If I ask you, hey, there's this massive pile of work, how long is all this going to take? Your answer is going to be shit. Like, you don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know how long this whole pile of work is going to take. Mm-hmm. I have a loose idea. I'm going to be making it up. But if I said, okay, here's all these things, let's talk about each one and size them relative to one another, and maybe size them relative to work we've done before. So I have a loose sense. This is a very small thing. This is a medium-sized thing. This is a pretty large thing. complexity and like unknowns. There's like, oh, there's a bunch of questions we don't have the answers to. Well, that makes that a little larger. It has more unknowns, has more complexity. Let's size it a little larger. So when you can do that, when you can take that overall work and then break it down into these pieces and then size the pieces relative to one another, then what you can do is you can say, okay, what do you think you could get done in the next 2 weeks? Think about what's happening in the next 2 weeks. All right, I got interviews I got to do. We're going to be cycling those machines. One of those days is a holiday. Okay, cool. All right, I'll have about, you can get in your head a concept of 2 weeks, and you could have a pretty good idea of what you could do in 2 weeks. What we find is if we go longer than that, it gets fuzzier. It's harder to predict. Now, what we see is if a team is struggling to actually get done what they planned in 2 weeks, a lot of times they'll say, well, but everything was just like, we just almost got it done. We should switch our sprints to be 3 weeks because then we can get stuff done. The conventional wisdom is, you know what, actually go with 1 week sprints. Because what we're seeing is that 2 weeks is too long to make a good prediction about. I can't tell you what I can get done in 2 weeks. Okay, can you tell me what you can get done in 1 week? Let's commit to that. And when we see that getting delivered, then we say, okay, cool. Now we can deliver things. When we say we're going to get it done in a week, it gets done in a week. Cool. Now, some of that work that becomes a little too big, then the invitation is, should we break that up? Should we take that one thing and make that two things? What would that look like? Right. How can we make it so that there's some portion of this that we can legitimately say is done within our work cycle?
Right.
And that's hard. That requires a lot of creativity. That is a hard thing to do. But when you can do it, then you get momentum. And then it's like, this done, this done. And it's not like, well, I'm most of the way, well, I'm 80%, I'm waiting on with all that variability. And like, that's when things get sticky. That's when schedules start to get messed up. So we really value done. Right. And if you put the work in to figure out how to size your how to size your deliverables down, then you can get into a really good momentum of done. And that just feels good. It's it's like this, like, yeah, man, we're getting stuff knocked out. Cool. We're seeing real progress here. And that's great. That's great for a team.
Now, we do agile spins.
I haven't heard that term, spins.
Yeah,
that's a new one
either.
What's that about?
So this is what I've experienced so far with agile spins. With the spins, we get together on over 3 days, all day for 3 days to talk about every single thing. Could this be done? What do we think can get done? What would be the blockers in that? What would be X, Y, and Z? And we do it all day. And I've been encouraging our team, instead of having every stand-ups every single day, let's just do virtual stand-ups. And then we have virtual stand-ups. You put in what you did yesterday, what you completed today, and are there any blockers? And then we have, if there are blockers that come up, we have a designated time, what we call open forum, where we can come in and talk about, hey, this is a blocker. Okay, what's the problem? How can we solve the problem? Can we get this problem solved in a day or 2 days? Is it dependent on another team? If so, let's escalate the problem, because it's going to affect our sprint, and get managers involved. And then have those managers have a meeting with us and the people that need to do the work to say, what is it that we need to get done? Do we have people on our team that can help you get this done? And if can this get on your backlog at least? Because now if it gets on your backlog, we can take it out of our sprint and say, well, we're waiting for X, Y, and Z to reply with this.
Yep.
And then do that. So that's what I've seen with the spins. I just hate the fact that it's all day. for 3 days? Like,
I've 3 days is a chunk. 3 days is a chunk of time. But one of the things that I like to point out to people is that Scrum is a framework. There's plenty of books on Scrum. Kanban is a framework. There's plenty of books on Kanban. And there's other frameworks out there. And those are intended to be like, hey, here's a combination of practices. And if you do all these together, this will get you some good results. And these practices all they align under Agile principles. But Agile as a concept is a broader umbrella than any one of those frameworks. And people who have, once you have a little bit more experience working with the different frameworks, what you realize is that one, like a given framework like Scrum, usually relies on some preconditions that not everybody has. And so if you don't meet all of the preconditions for Scrum, Scrum may not be the best approach for you. So like Scrum may say, oh, you should do in-person stand-ups, blah, blah, blah. What you're describing addresses the role of the stand-up. What you're describing does what a stand-up is intended to do. And so in my opinion, that makes complete sense. And what an Agilist will tell you is that if the team agrees to try that as a practice and the team finds that it works well, that is 100% the right thing to do. Adhering to a framework just because it's the framework doesn't serve the needs of the individual team. Each team should be paying attention to what practices work well for us. There's a fun title.
It's safe is not agile, right?
A lot of people so this is where tension comes up, because people who are Agilists with the capital A, we look at something like the Scaled Agile Framework, SAFe, and we say, man, that is really structured. It feels like a heavy process. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of mechanics. How adaptable is that? Like, how much can you adapt to the needs of your group when you follow this? And so some of us are like, is that align with Agile principles? I'm not sure. I get why it feels good to corporations. I'm not sure how easy it is to really embrace an Agile mindset when you're following such a regimented approach.
And we're very regimented in terms of, we have our Scrum Master, our product owner, our Agile teams. We have a Agile release team. We have our trains. We have that. We have a continuous. There's a difference between continuous delivery and continuous deployment. Some people are continuous delivery. Some people are continuous deployment. Again, enablers and features and tasks and so forth, right? And then your business owner. And in any part of my career, I probably have touched multiple roles, right? Depending on the job, depending on the people that we're working with, right? So I may not always be doing hands on keyboard. I may actually be managing a project, or sometimes it may, like right now I'm a floater, right? I have my own project, then I float to other projects, and then I float to other projects, and I'm giving ideas on this one, and then I'm reading oh, how should we do releases? How should we do tags? How should we convey this to other teams? This is the format that we're following, and we want you to follow this format. Like, how do you convey that to that team? Does it even make sense to that team, right? And that may not make sense to that team. So there's no one size that fits all. I like to call it I was going to say a bare metal template, but it's just a template, and then you can rearrange that template to fit your needs, but the sections are known. Let me say that.
Mm-hmm.
You know the sections, but then you may have to tailor that to fit your needs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would agree with that a lot. I saw Cherie was questioning about, so it streamlines the project. And that is one of the outcomes, or that is one of the benefits to me. One of the biggest benefits that I would call out is that agile approaches, or when an organization embraces agile philosophy and agile approaches to how they work, what you end up with are teams that execute really well and work really smoothly. So it's not necessarily, it's less project centric. It's more like, how do we get a group of people to work really effectively together? And how do we think less about a big project? There's a strong emphasis of, when something's going to take weeks, months, even years, then it's kind of a fool's errand to make a lot of predictions about it. When you emphasize delivering value for customers really frequently, then you're always seeing improvements. You're just seeing improvements happening all the time, new functionality being added all the time, features being added all the time. And the project concept gets looser, and you're focused more on smaller steps. And that's really beneficial. So, like, is that streamlining the project? It's sort of rethinking the concept of a project. It's saying, let's not try to do something that's going to take us 9 months. Let's do a 2-month version of that and then reassess, and do another 2-month version of that and reassess. Let's do a 2-week. What if we did a 2-week version? What if we were releasing new production code every day? What if there was new features going out all the time? Then what's a project at that point? Right. And so it really challenges some of that.
Now, I know we took you off your stride on the open part.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Of the conference. and I don't know if you have time for a question or two.
Sure.
If somebody wants to come up or what have you. I know it was a Saturday.
I do.
You want to go get lost.
I feel like we should, maybe, if you can give me a minute to explain the concept of an open space, I can do that.
Okay.
Hold on. I heard my dog barking, which means that there's a wine delivery happening. And so I'm just messaging my wife to be like, hey, you might need to.
You funny, you talk about wine delivery on the show. This morning show, I talked about how you can own a vine in a vineyard. Right?
That's interesting.
Yeah, they're using NFTs and 5Gs and blockchain for it. I said, it's Z?
Okay. 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 Concept of an open space conference. So if you go to Agile Open Northwest.org, there is a page that explains the concept of an open space. An open space is sometimes referred to as an unconference. And if you look in that left-hand nav, it's the second item down, about open space. It's also sometimes called an unconference. And so one of the things I like to do is to help people feel comfortable with this concept, so that they know if they see it out there, they know what they're getting into, because it's a very different experience than a typical conference. Typical conference, there is a set of speakers. We're going to highlight our speakers who are coming. We're going to talk about who's the keynote and all of this, right? There's going to be a schedule. There's going to be tracks. And you're going to go and decide which sessions you want to go to ahead of time, because you're going to learn something from this person. You're going to learn something from that person. Cool. A bunch of folks had a moment where they said, hey, you know what? At these conferences, it's a lot of PowerPoints and they're kind of boring and there's not a lot of dialogue. And the real value that I get, the part I really, really get a win out of, is all those hallway conversations. When I'm talking to other people who are in my industry, who are in my space, who are facing the same challenges that I am, those conversations, that's the value I get out of conferences. And they said, well, what if we made a whole event that was just that? And that's the notion of an open space. So the way it works, get a bunch of people, everyone comes together into one space. I call it the opening circle. And I have to acknowledge, as someone who was born and raised in New York and later moved to San Francisco, I have like a woo-woo, alert system where I'm like, ooh, that's awfully hippie. But it works. Opening circle. Here we all are. Here's our theme. Here's, welcome everybody. We're all here to do this thing together. Great, great, great. Now, we're going to open what we call the marketplace. And if you think of doing this in a physical space, think of it like a really big board and a whole bunch of index cards. And everyone who's an attendee can write down an idea for a discussion they want to have. I want to talk about why story points suck. I want to talk about how to make retrospectives better. I want to tell you about this idea I have for a book that I want to write, or I'm partway through writing and I want feedback on it. All those different ideas. Put them up on cards, put them up on a wall. And then the group has a chance to see everyone else's ideas. And ooh, that's an interesting topic. That's an interesting topic. Oh, you want to talk about something that's a lot like the one that I made. Here, can I combine mine with yours? Cool. Maybe we'll do that session together. Everyone has a chance to digest what are these proposals? What are these session proposals? Sometimes there's a verbal presentation of this is my idea, this is my proposal for a session. And then let's say you have X number of rooms available, and let's say there's X number of time slots available. Great. Everyone who has a session that they want to do, get yourself a room and a time slot. Cool. That's the agenda for the day. Now everyone else, go forth and attend whatever sessions you want to attend. Now here's where it gets really cool, and especially when we do it in a virtual space, we don't have room limitations. We don't have time limitations. So we make these virtual rooms, we make Zoom rooms basically, using this thing called Kiko Chat. So the first session starts at 9 o'clock, and you go in, and one of the key principles of an open space is the law. They call it the law of mobility. And it basically is, if you're in a space and you are not being served by it, you should go to a different space. You should not feel obliged to stay in that space. And so you go into a session, you start a conversation. It could be 5 people, it could be a dozen people. It doesn't matter. The group who's there has that conversation. They talk about that topic, and they talk about it for basically as long as they want. Maybe it's a 10-minute discussion. Maybe it's an hour. Maybe they stay in there for 2 hours. Essentially, when there's no more energy around the topic, they say, okay, we're done, we're out. All right, I'm going to go to this other thing. I don't know. I'm going to see what they're doing over there. And so by enabling that and celebrating that kind of mobility and introducing that flexibility to the format, it really means you can have super rich conversations, and you don't have that feeling of wasting your time because you committed to sitting in a room to talk about a thing or to hear someone talk about a thing. You let go of that expectation and you just say, go where you're getting value. And there's no hard feelings. And you don't have to feel weird about you end up leaving. It's like, nope, go where you want to go. Talk to who you want to talk to. Like, dip in and out. It's all good. So it is a very different kind of conference experience. Generally, then at the end of the day, there's a closing circle where we say, okay, cool, thanks everybody, brought us together. Sometimes there's notes. Sometimes people make notes out of a session. Sometimes they don't. For our conference, we'll do 3 days. And so we'll do that same cycle 3 times. And I've known people who went for their first time and they decided to propose a session, and they got like a whole bunch of people to sit in, and they had a really great conversation, and they were overwhelmed. They're like, I never thought I would be a person who was proposing a session topic and having this really amazing conversation, but that was cool. And so it's great. It's great. It can be great when it happens, and it leads to some really, really productive discussions.
So what I'm hearing is it also sounds like it takes the pressure off the speaker as well too, if there was a main speaker.
Well, there isn't really a concept of a main speaker.
Right.
Anyone can be the one who proposed an idea, and that person might put out the initial thought into the discussion, but that doesn't mean that they're obliged to dominate that discussion. And at some point they might kind of be done with it, and they might say, hey, I'm going to move on. You guys keep talking. I'm good. I'm done.
Okay. So it almost sounds like it's agile. Right? That's what it sounds like, right? And because I go to conferences, I be feeling obligated to stick around while the person's talk. Even in webinars, I be like, I don't want to leave, because I know what it's like on the other end when people start leaving. You're like, oh, okay, I'm getting whacked now. Nobody wants. I'm getting whacked now. Let me get out of here.
I'm losing them. I'm losing them.
I'm losing them. Let me shut it down. And D does it too. She'll be in the background. 21, 21. They leaving. They leaving. They leaving.
Woo.
Time to shut it down.
Change topics.
They leaving. They ain't interested in what you got to say. It's time to go. Shut it on down. She be in the background like, you need to shut it down. This ain't worth our time. This ain't it.
So yeah, open spaces are definitely very different in that regard, and they can be very freeing. And I mean, some people just don't like them for that reason, because they don't have so much structure. You don't know who you're gonna get to hear from. And so it's not for everybody, but it can be really, really cool. And as I was saying, when you have an event where you've got people who've written books on these topics, and they're just in the room to have the conversation, and you can be in a group of like 10 people just chatting it up with Diana Larson, who's written multiple books on Agile, is seen as like this big thought leader. It's like, oh yeah, sure, let's just chat. I don't know, what do you think? Well, I think this. What do you think? I think that. It's really cool.
Do you recommend people maybe prep before they go to the conference? Like maybe look at past conference, or maybe get some fundamentals of Agile before they attend?
Well, what I will say is this: based on last year, I also reached out a lot to different communities and invited people to join the conference, because as I was saying, one of the big intentions for us is to mix it up and to get more diversity of perspectives and voices and backgrounds, and just like get new faces into the space. And so I did reach out to a lot of people who had never been to an event like that. My takeaway from doing that is that, to manage expectations, this is not the kind of conference where you can go to a session to learn what is this thing, to learn what is Agile, what is Scrum. This is a kind of event for folks to discuss their experiences, or to discuss ideas about Agile practices, about Agile frameworks. This is a space for folks to say, like, SAFe is weird. I don't understand it. Is anyone really love SAFe and want to talk to me about it? Like, I think it's stupid. And so there isn't a lot of preparation work that inherently would make a difference. But if you're just curious about Agile and you're like, oh, I really want to learn about some of these concepts, that might happen for you at a conference like this, or it might not, and it's hard to predict. So it's not a great educational opportunity. It's a great connection, discussion, networking opportunity. There will be people there who are working consultants at big Agile consultancies. And so if you're networking, if you're working in the space and you're interested in getting into those things, this is an opportunity to connect with people like that and learn about their jobs, and get yourself a connection, get yourself an interview, get yourself a referral. The sponsors, we have several sponsors of the conference, and those are frequently Agile consultancy companies. And so they're often pitching and saying, hey, we're hiring for Scrum Masters, we're hiring for Agile coaches, all of those things. So that happens a lot. And there are those kinds of opportunities to network, to connect, to learn about different companies doing this kind of work. Those are all really great reasons to come to an event like this. And none of those things really require preparation necessarily, unless you think about just being prepared to network and being prepared to present yourself to other professionals. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Cool.
The one question I did have was, as far as like an agile coach, right? I always try to give, you know me, I'm always talking about the money. what is because there's Scrum Master, and then there's agile coaches that are consultants that really, come in, maybe spend maybe a month with a team, with a company. I don't know. I'm guessing.
Yep.
Right? And just to say, hey, you need to tune up this, you need to tune up that. What does that look like professionally? Because I know some Scrum Masters, well, I have seen some Scrum Masters being rented out as well too. They're contractors as well too. Hey, I'm a Scrum Master and I'm being contracted out. What does that look like? Like uh, work wise, and then just a guesstimate financial wise. Give someone an idea.
Okay, what does that look like work wise? So the Scrum Master role is to partner with the team and to facilitate the Scrum ceremonies. And so it is specific to that framework. It's really saying, okay, we're doing Scrum. And so there's a person whose role is to work with the team and keep them doing the things. So making sure that there is a planning that happens, making sure that there's a backlog grooming that happens, making sure that there's a retro that happens, paying attention to the data, the burn down charts, and kind of reflecting data to the team, calling their attention to working agreements that they made, or, hey, we tried this experiment. So it's very team centric, and it's supporting that framework and how the team is using that framework specifically, Scrum specifically. You don't have a Scrum Master with a Kanban team. You don't have a Scrum Master in an extreme programming environment. Scrum Master is for if the team is primarily doing Scrum. Now, an Agile coach is a role where you have teams, probably multiple teams, and they probably have a Scrum Master, and they're doing the work. And maybe some of them are Kanban, maybe some of them are using Extreme, maybe some of them are doing other stuff. The Agile coach role is to come in, observe the dynamics of the team, and act as a coach to help them lean into Agileness more. Now, this gets into, do you buy into the concept of a coach? And this is done in a number of different ways in different places, which is why my words are getting squirrely. If you're doing it for real, in my opinion, if you're a trained and especially certified coach,
in your opinion,
in my opinion, then what that means is, if you think of like a coach of a sports team, I'm here to lift up this team. I'm here to help this team be their best selves. I'm not here to deliver a project. I'm not here to deliver features or to assess your metrics as to whether or not you're building the right things. I don't have a stake in whether or not you're building the right things. I'm here to help this team function as well as they can and to embrace Agile approaches. What that means is I should know more than one Agile approach. I should have some understanding of team dynamics and interpersonal dynamics and some psychology and some things like that. I should be asking a lot of questions. I should be using a lot of questioning approaches to encourage people to have insights, to encourage the team to have insights about themselves and about how they work. I should be encouraging them to explore experiments that might lead them to function better. So it is much more about supporting a group to function well, regardless of what specific framework they're using. And so it's often done as a consulting thing because very few companies are large enough or motivated enough to pay someone full time to just be Agile coaching their teams. A lot of folks will put that on top of the folks who are the Scrum Masters or the technical project managers. They'll just kind of combine that in as part of the expectation of those other roles. But if you're a company of a certain size and you're trying Agile like for the first time, and you're wanting to have a sense of like, okay, are we doing it right? Are we doing Agile? Then you would say, well, let's bring a coach in and have them observe the team for a little while, and then give some guidance, give some questions, inspire some insights, like nudge them up a little bit. That's the healthy version of bringing in an Agile coach as a consultant. And as you can imagine, there's all sorts of unhealthy versions of that where you're just getting paid to tell the executives what they want to hear, and you're not actually adding any value. But let's assume we're not doing that. As far as pay, in the .com universe, which is the one that I'm familiar with, it would not be surprising to be in the 200K realm. Maybe 150, maybe 200, I think would not be unreasonable. If you're working as a consultant, the money can be different. It's going to be hourly, right? I haven't done all the math on that. But yeah, where I last worked, I had a team of people, and I had them working as combination Scrum Master, Project Manager, and Agile Coach. So I was blending those three together into one role. And that salary range was in between, I want to say, like 110 on the low end, and then getting up towards 180.
Yeah.
I think we were a little below typical market rate. So I can offer you that.
That's cool. And I pulled up something here that I had never ever heard of. This was new to me. An agile technical mentor.
Oh, okay. That's another way of putting that. Sure. Sure. Why not? Yeah. Call it that.
Yeah. And it looks like it's 150 to 200K on that. All right. So, that's about right. But I mean, again, we're not saying that people are highly technical with these positions, right?
It varies quite a bit.
Right.
There is a general concept that a level of technical fluency will really make you more impactful in agile spaces, but it's still pretty flexible. It's pretty variable. But yeah, it's you can do it with, I would say, minimal technical fluency. If you have zero technical fluency, it's gonna be harder.
Right. And we got somebody backstage, Professor Black Ops. Come on up. How you doing?
How you doing, Tim? I'm still tired from last night, but that's a different conversation.
Good God. I swear. You swear you like 95 years old.
I am.
Alex, meet Professor Black Ops.
How you doing, Alex?
We're gonna call him the elder of the crew.
Facts.
Because he is always over here talking about, oh my God, oh, you swear he was outside working and he had to spell agile in concrete with a stick.
Facts. You know me. I'm getting out the digital mud, man. It's hard over here.
How do you spell agile on punch cards? I don't know how to do that. I think there's a way.
Right.
So he asked, well, go ahead. I'm sure you had a question or you wanted to lend something to the conversation.
Yeah, Alex. Just let me know. A lot of times when the technical people like myself work to agile from a security method, then like we said, we're trying to get our requirements in and the backlog, right, to trying to make that work from an agile perspective and a security perspective. Have you ever kind of worked with that? Because I struggle with agile because it's a little fluid for security. So now we kind of tugging and warring, trying to get the agile to say, we need it done in 2 weeks. They're like, no, we're agile. So how does that, from a product and delivery perspective? Did that make sense, Alex? I just want to make sure.
So there's a lot of people who do a lot of hand waving around agile. And this is one of the reasons why I really like to call it out. I like to help folks have some literacy, and I encourage you to do some reading about agile. There's information out there. There's nothing about agile that says you have to do it in 2 weeks.
I know that's my problem. So that's why I've read it, Alex. That's why I'm trying to get your professional opinion. Because like sometimes, security needs it done X and agile's like, hey, we chilling. So I'm just trying to figure out how does that work?
So the way it can work, an agile team should be interested in adding value into the system. So there's somebody who's a customer of a team. Could be an internal customer, could be, paying customers out on the street. It's fine. Whoever your customer is, you have a concept of who your customer is. And They have needs. You're trying to meet their needs, right? By adding value into the system. Adding value into the system means usually changing code, right? You're making functions, you're making features, or you're changing settings. You're moving things from one machine to another. Those are value adds, right? Now, the best way for this to work is that the team talks to the customer and understands what the customer needs, and you articulate it in terms of the reason we use the phrase user stories is a way of talking about how am I meeting the customer's needs, the user, what am I empowering them to do that they couldn't do before. So if it's a security issue, speaking loosely, my understanding is often that means, hey, we're out of compliance with a regulation. We need to get this system into compliance. That's the value add.
Right.
So you say, what I need this system in compliance. Now let's talk about how soon we can get that done. Now, if you have a group that's planning their work in 2-week cycles, cool. That's great. If something urgent comes up, the team may just need to respond to it. They just may need to do it. And if it's like, this thing's on fire, we have a breach, we're about to lose X amount of customer data, this is a problem, someone needs to do this today, then the sprint plan goes out the window. Like that's not, and this is one of the things that comes up when people try to use a Scrum framework. The Scrum framework presumes that you make your commitment to your plan at the beginning of your work cycle. If your work cycle is 2 weeks, you say, okay, cool, we made our plan, we're going to commit to our plan, we got to deliver on this thing. If you have new requests, we will consider that for the next work cycle, which is all fine. But most teams that I encounter, especially in smaller companies, also have to be reactive to urgent situations. And if you ignore that, you are being Scrum, you are not being Agile. Agile says we value responding to change more than we value following the plan. And so if you want to be Agile, you have to be able to respond to change. If there is an emergency, you have to be able to deal with it.
No, Alex, and my team is pretty good. I was just trying to get your professional opinion. Like you said, and I'm old, I took some security requirements and I try to make them stories. I'm from the 80s, so that's kind of a different. And like you said, my team's pretty good. If I put it in the backlog and I say, get it, they usually get it. But me being old, I'm trying to morph myself to make sure I was doing waterfall in the 80s. So I'm really, struggling trying to get the Agile. And that was a great description of what that should look like for Agile team. And my team is pretty good at doing that. So I really appreciate that explanation.
People struggle with user stories. User stories is hard. Yep. It is hard. I want to be really upfront about that. It's very convenient and it's nice and concise, but it's hard to articulate your work as user stories. And that requires creativity and some time and some experimentation. It's not always intuitive. And especially for infrastructure work, it can be very difficult to really embody the spirit of user stories. There are Agilists who say, forget user stories, they're stupid. This is, a lovely idea, but does not work for everybody. Just forget it. There's plenty of Agilists who say, forget user stories, they're passe. This is not something where there is unanimous agreement. And part of being Agile is being willing to experiment and challenge this premise that things should fit into a user story. Some things are just tasks that need to be done to support the business. And that's just what that is. So a good, in my opinion, a healthy, mature Agilist will look at each situation with flexibility and curiosity and say, okay, what is the shape of our work and what is going to best support us getting this work done? And maybe we use user stories for a lot of things, but not everything. Maybe we read some books about how to write good user stories for infrastructure, good user stories for security. There's blogs out there, there's YouTubes out there. People have been exploring this for decades. So that's my main answer is don't be afraid to experiment. Don't feel like you have to fit into that specific framework in order to be productive and to be Agile.
No, and two is I wanted to try to be flexible and work with their team to say security is not rigid. We want to try Agile, so we try to do the stories, put in that black out because as a security practitioner, I want to be agile and work with the teams in their best form. So, to try to do this. So I sucked at writing using stories, but they helped me. But it came out pretty good. So.
But then I got questions about how in how far left in the process are you? Like, are you in the process where you're, incorporating the STIGs before the infrastructure is deployed? Like, well, I should say before the application is deployed. Are you creating immutable infrastructure?
We doing it before because we kind of old school. So usually what we did is, like he said, and jumping out, but the story is the application, the STIG's the infrastructure. So really we build the infrastructure, then they're gonna put the app in there. We usually didn't do the agile with the infrastructure because we're old. So we're like, here's your VLANs, here's your VMs. So when you build your stuff, we can automatically, roll them in there, put the apps in there, and do some automation by putting the apps where we want them. But we kind of pre-built that up there. So then that way the security stories could go first, and kind of get built as, like you would say, Tim, compliance is called. Like when you do this field, we want this validation on here, right? Those could be stories where like, we want you to check, this is a number, this is a $sign, it could be 10, right? Go ahead, Alex. I see you pause. He didn't like what I said. No, go ahead.
Well, something that I would offer you is that part of the structure of user stories is a concept of acceptance criteria. Some of what you're describing should be acceptance criteria on every story. They are not unique. They are not distinct user stories. No. So when you say like data validation or like basic requirements to make sure that you're not introducing vulnerabilities, I would say if you're building those things for the first time, maybe that's a user story. If features are being built and you're trying to make sure that they're not introducing vulnerabilities, that's acceptance criteria. And I would say there should be an automated test suite that's being built out to validate that at all times. Because that's a quality. That's a quality standard. That's not functionality that's like that's not functionality that you might add or might not add. Like, no, we have to have this.
No, you're 100% correct. They did a test week. The problem is the security was light. So originally it was might have, and I came in, I was like, we will have it, right? So now we're trying to blend that in with the Agile team and kind of make all that work. And I think in the end we got there, but as you well see, it's a struggle, right? Trying to figure out where it goes, and is it a feature, is it a story, is it the first time? If you stuck as a security, now it's a feature because they never done it. So we gotta have this.
So I think you should be working with the infrastructure team versus the application team. But here's why though. So the requirements that the application team needs should be conveyed to you so you can write them into your stories for security. And then when you all get with security to build the infrastructure, it's already baked in. It's not something that they have to come back and say, well, we need for you to open up this port, or we need for you to do X, Y, and Z. You've already gathered the requirements from the application team on, and even when they're testing, that should already be there. So when you are going back to build everything, when you get with the infrastructure team should be doing, okay, here's my Terraform scripts or CloudFormation scripts. Here's our Ansible playbooks that we're going to deploy that includes, blah, blah, blah. And also, by the way, we also have our security section or our security pipeline included in that as well too, and testing the infrastructure. And we're going to go ahead and do a deployment of the application in a dev environment, and then do some functionality of the testing in that dev environment. If it fails, cool, it failed in the dev environment. You don't move forward until you all sit back down again and come up with, what happened and why it failed and what you need to correct.
Yeah, just real quick,
working on the other side of the team.
Yeah, we struggle with that. We were trying to use Chef and Puff Chef it and Puppet at a big client, and we were struggling like that because it's split in two. Like you said, some of that's application security and some of that's infrastructure security. And we were struggling trying to figure out where it should go. We should have hired both of you and had y'all come in and help us. We were struggling with that.
I do consulting work. You can find us at 50/50 Geek.
I'm gonna get
Sign
you.
up. Our capability statement is out there.
So that's why I thought both of y'all be perfect for me to ask those questions. Like, I did it, but I think Alex and you, and which I know I did it because we wasn't mature. We kind of boating stuff on. We got some stuff in stories that should have been somewhere else, and some of it was infrastructure, should have been application security, some of my applications. So since y'all got up, I'm trying to get a better understanding for myself so I could be a better consultant because I made it work. I got the sticks on, but like I said, it wasn't the smoothest, and I think we were violating a lot of things Alex says from a Scrum, Kanban.
You probably violate all kinds of security.
Why you don't say it like that, Tim? Don't put me on blast on YouTube. That's why I'm asking y'all. That's why I'm here. Don't do me like that, Tim.
No, just open everything up. Just open everything up.
Facts. Sometimes we got to get in production, but so I was just trying to ask some intelligent questions so I could balance. Because like Alex said, I went up there and read some stuff. Then my buddy 60, he thinks it's the stupidest thing he ever heard. He's like, we should be done in 2 weeks. How you putting stuff in the backlog? I'm like, oh, dude, this is the new thing. We got to work with it, right? So we're learning too. I'm trying to get my Agile Scrum in and try to do the right thing.
Yeah, mainly, I think one of the biggest priorities for me in trying to help teams to be more agile is to encourage people to collaborate. That's really at the heart of it. Like, get the managers out of the way and let the people who actually are building things talk to one another and hash it out. And so if you're trying to work with another team, like, sit down with them to be like, okay, look, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. This is what we need. How do we make this fit into your structures, right? Because as Tamika was saying earlier, like, each team might have a different way of sizing their work, talking about their work, tracking it, blah, blah, blah. And so really it's like, just get in there with them and say like, hey, I have needs. Tell me, how do I work with this? How do I get this into your thing?
And Alex, that's actually how I ended up writing stories. I'm like, okay, security's trying to get in there. They said, well, let's try to put it in a story. Okay. Tim is familiar with the OWASP top 12. These vulnerabilities come out every year, right? So is that in the front? Is that a backlog? Is that something we know go on every screen? What's the best way to put that in your agile process to get a security requirement? And two, the traceability, so we can figure out, okay, we did it here. We can trace it as here. We can do some compliance as a code. But I was just trying to get some, different text from y'all, figure out what you did. Like, once again, we were immature. So we had a coach, I thought he was pretty good, but he's trying to get them to conform. I'm trying to slide my stuff in there. So, we were morphing into the best thing I think we could do at the time, to be honest.
So you were bumping heads with the coach, huh?
Oh, actually, yeah, we almost got in a fist fight one time, but we worked it out.
Bumping heads with the coach. They done paid. Hey, Alice, they done sit up here and paid this coach probably $200 or $300 an hour to come in.
But the problem is some of it wasn't his fault. But he come in and, like he said, he was the architect, so he's trying to architect security, and we like, dude, you the Scrum guy. Right, so now we like, so
you see how they treat Scrum. You see this, Alex? You the Scrum guy. You go over there.
You Scrum guy, man.
He teaching him like go scrub toilets.
Then tell, and I'm usually a laid back guy, but then the dude try to raise his voice. I'm like, homie, that's the wrong thing to do. We supposed to be collaborating. That's the wrong thing to do. We collaborate, but not like so.
I mean, this is where it's like, look. You're paid to come in and figure this out. You need to be the one who's the grown up in the room. You need to be the one keeping your cool. You should be able to handle the challenges, right? When somebody challenges your approach, you should have answers for it that make sense. Or else, what are you getting paid for?
Yeah, but too, though, I think a lot of Scrum guys, they come in, I think he get a total autonomy, and most people don't challenge him. I think this is the first time, my team got a big personality, and he had a big person. But once again, it worked out. I thought we came out with something that was reasonably well.
Wheelchair, okay?
I hope he appreciated. I hope he appreciated your challenge and the learning opportunity that presented.
The funny thing, the funny thing though is we went to war. We were going up to the CIO and the CISO, and we having these big meetings. He left. He sent me the sweetest email on LinkedIn. So I guess he thought
Oh no, see,
personal. I
that
was like,
was hey, let me build up my LinkedIn network. That was not
yeah,
that's
I
what
was
that was.
I'm thinking we almost got in a fist fight in the conference room. I'm like, but nah, shout out to everybody. You know, sometimes the sausage gets ugly, but just trying to get y'all views on what that looks like from security and Tim's throwing an infrastructure and what a good team should look like. Of course, collaboration, but what would that look like when you put it in production and how that would actually work in real life. So.
Right, but so for me, this is my own personal thought, and Alex, you can say it wrong. Whatever it looks like in development as your team is going to be the same in production, right? But you should be to me, you should be cultivating that over every
Mhm.
environment. Like it may change, right? But your team and the goal is not changing. It may be some hiccups, but the what we came to do and came to conquer should be the same. Unless again you got a day one vulnerability or day zero, I should say, a day zero vulnerability like the policy kit and the heartbleed. It's like, yeah, screw that. We gotta update all our stuff. You know, like
but but
hands on keyboard, everybody on deck.
yeah, but for realistically though, is that's not a developer issue, right? That's more of an infrastructure. We need to patch this VM or this web server, right? So that
It
really,
it it depends.
right. So that's so when you say depends, I'm old. It gets me confused. I need a definitive
Because
answer. Now I know what you're
because
trying.
it depends, right? I could
Right,
be
right.
working at a startup. I'm the developer and the
Oh,
infrastructure.
facts.
Right,
We
so
were.
Or I mean,
Go ahead.
sometimes the vulnerability has to do with how the application is coded, right?
Oh,
Like it's
facts.
not, and that means okay, we got to get the feature guys on this. We got to
Right.
change
But
some code.
the heartbleed was specifically infrastructure. Well, but that's the part too, and both of y'all got it is application is going to be a little different in infrastructure depending on how mature you are, right? Too is because some things we just kind of do manually and the guy patch it, right? We not running a Terraform like Tam where you smile at it and it just boom, 400 VMs are up to date. Sometimes it gets a little uglier than that, right? So
Most infrastructure teams I've seen have a combination. They have reactive work and they have proactive work. So they have things they have to react to, and then there's projects they're trying to run, right? And that is a particularly that's a complex situation to resolve because Kanban is really good for reactive, Scrum is really good for proactive, and so you end up with some weird blends that I've seen happen. But I don't know. I find it fascinating. But yeah, there's a lot out there in terms of like people trying to make an infrastructure team just one or the other, and it's like no, they're both. They always have both. They have projects they got to do that are going to take weeks, and then they have shit happening every day where stuff's blowing up and they got to deal with it. So anyway,
I know Alex got to go.
All right, Alex. Thanks, Alex. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So do I offer parting words? I don't know if you're wrapping up the stream. I'm gonna tap out.
You gotta dip, you can dip. We here.
Yeah,
we appreciate your time.
Yeah.
We appreciate your knowledge.
Facts.
Shout out to the Agile Open Northwest. You can find it at I was getting ready to say Apple. Agile Open Northwest.org. Check out the site. It's an unconference style event. Again, like Alex spoke earlier, for those that are just not coming in, it's really more or less like, hey, you have a topic, let's network, let's talk about it, let's get to know each other, and talk about some things that maybe an agile coach had ran into, and here's how I solved the problem. What should I have done differently? What I could have done better? And again, it's still, I think, it's a learning opportunity as well too, for those that's never been to an unconference before as well. So that's how I look at it. Do you want people to find you on LinkedIn, or you want them to find you in Blacks in Technology?
Finding me in Blacks in Technology is great. That's a great Slack community. I'm happy to offer support for folks there. I'm a little more hesitant with connecting on folks on LinkedIn unless we've actually worked together. So that's where I set my line. But I'm happy to talk to folks if you want some one-on-one chat about some of this Agile stuff. I'm happy to do that. So yes, you can find me on LinkedIn and reach out if you just want to have a chat. I probably won't connect to you unless we've actually done some work together.
Gotcha.
But greatly appreciate you and your time.
Thank you.
And your community. Have a fabulous day.
You do the same. All right. What's going on, Professor Walker? Are you awake? Or you...
Oh yeah, old man took a little nap, but I'm rolling down. That 3 hours tore me up. I got a quick question, not for you. Were we attacking you yesterday? Did you feel attacked? Okay, I didn't think so. My man came back and apologized to me. Come in, which was cool. And he said, I thought y'all was talking to Tam. I'm like, Tam's a big girl. I don't think I just want to reach out because my channel's a safe space too. I'm like, nah, I don't think Tam felt attacked, but I'm gonna ask her because I want to make sure I take care of her.
I didn't feel attacked. I think the issue is understanding what our options are, right?
Oh, facts.
And it goes back into the conversation that we had yesterday is we have the ability to do multiple things, but we don't capitalize on what those things look like. Like you say, you go on Upwork, you go on Freelancer.
Hold on. Do you want to level set everybody? We just start talking. You ain't level set.
I'm doing that now. I'm doing that
my
now.
fault. You just got to jump.
Doing that now.
Go ahead, my fault. You just jumped. Go ahead.
Now, right?
You didn't tell what the issue was. You just boom. Go ahead.
Well, you go ahead. You go ahead and tell what the issue was. It was your show.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. Just we were talking about contracting, then we got into government contracting. There's multiple ways to do it. Sometimes you sub, and sometimes you can't sub. I think Tam was hitting subbing, which is a perfect thing. I think me and Gabe's a little hesitant because in government contracts, sometimes they make you name certain people in that. But if they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. Right? What level of subs do you control in there? So, and I thought B2B was soaking up a lot of game because you was dropping a lot of gems in there, right? So that was really it. Contracting, especially Black people, we should be subbing to each other, right? Especially, I trust Tam. I know her skills. So if I do something, I could sub it out to Tam. So the question is, will that client let you do that? And sometimes there's security and compliance that you have to do for your sub. So that's kind of it at the high level. So we were peppering Tam with a lot of questions. So of course, she's a big girl. She was answering them all. Wasn't no big deal. She was swatting them away. I think Gabe was, he's used to work for the big company. He was a little more hesitant. So Tam, they were having a great discussion about what that was.
It was on the show he works for, Accenture. But and he was just saying that that's not something that they do. And I'm just like, no, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Because Accenture will go out and find other people to do work, right? They'll go find another company to do work, and then that company will go find someone else to do work. So it's a cut on a cut on a cut. Red Hat does the same thing. Red Hat does the same thing. IBM does the same. I don't know of a company that don't sub to someone, and those people go out. And again, you got to remember in this conversation we were saying sometimes you're treating yourself as a business. I'm not an independent operator. I'm an entity. When you hire me, you're hiring a business. So you may sub to me under this LLC, right? And so under that LLC, depending on who you're talking to and working with, you may end up saying, hey, I have this work. Like say I'm the big sub, right?
Oh, the prime, the big prime.
Now that's prime, and then I'm the sub, right?
Okay, you the big sub though.
I'm the big sub, right?
I've been there. I work for it. No, I know what you're gonna go ahead.
Yeah. And then I may have three different tasks I need to be filled. Well, I can contact you as this sub, this other entity, and you may have people that you can help me find to fill those positions. So I may be working with you and maybe two other people, or I may just be working with you, or I may be just working with you for this piece, and I may be working with three other people for this piece. It depends.
True.
And I don't want us to get caught up in that's just how government works, but that is a concept that in from what I've seen works in freelancing as well too.
No, that's true. Like I just said, every now and then the the entity I work for is a subcontracting company, and they named some people in the contract that they wanted on the contract that you couldn't roll off unless they no longer work for the company or died, right? So every now and then they write a few people in because the company I work for helped the company deliver an $80 million system. So they were naming about 10 people like these people need to be on this contract because we spend 80 million. But like you said, other than that, what you want to sub, as long as you had your FBI background, it was some background checks because it was government, but as long as your subs met that same requirement, right? They could sub.
And then again, some of them are not government based. Some
Right now, facts.
Yeah, some people call. I mean, I get calls all the time. Hey, I'm looking for someone to help me build a data center, and I want to use Amazon to build my data center. And so my data center is going to live in Amazon, and we need someone to help us build our infrastructure. Do you know people that can help us do that? Yeah, sure. I got a couple of people. I'm going to need a project manager. I'm going to need this. I'm going to need this. I'm going to need this. Oh, okay. Well, I'll be the entity, and then I'll go out and get everybody else that you need. So those people that I may go get may not work as a 1099 under their social security number. They may work under their business name. So that may be a business. It may be B2B. On that, right? So again, I was just offering like they're, when we're talking about this, when we're talking about getting into tech, and making money, we need to be looking at perspectives of am I employee? Am I going to go 1099 as me, or am I going to go as a business? And then we start talking about the IRAs and being an employer in that business, and then paying yourself as an employee in that business.
Right? I've done both, so yeah, 100%.
Right, and so that and that was the gist of the conversation, and then that spawned out into someone's like, "Hey, you're attacking. Don't do that." And so then that's
right. He was trying to save Tam. I was like, Tam don't need saving. She okay. I promise you. We need saving, not Tam. I think we're okay. So I just I was 99% sure you were cool because everybody on that panel was very mature, very professional. It didn't even really get ugly. It was no name calling. It was just like, what about what about that? So I thought it was a great conversation.
I gotta get my shirt up. I don't have my shirt. You know how I feel. We too broke to argue. You know how
facts.
I feel. When they started there arguing and stuff, I'd be like, I feel money leaving my bank account. Got standing up here. Gotta go.
And I think she even said it. B2B really was feeling it because I think he made I ain't gonna say a bad decision. Maybe some decisions if he known that knowledge we were dropping last night, he would have been. Because to be honest, I made the same mistakes he made till I got older. Then you start knowing the cleans and the rates and subs. And two, as we well know, some of those big primes need minorities to get points on RFPs. So they might hire you just because you black. I'm gonna throw it out there. Now you ain't gonna get the best work. They might give you testing, but you can get a big chunk of, you can get a big morsel and eat well on that.
And then I think also too, we have to start looking at our rates. Like I said, we need to have a rate conversation.
Oh yeah,
$40 and $55, $60. No.
Oh, facts. I was that way for 10 years before I found out I was messing the rates up. You're 100% because I didn't get this knowledge. It was dropping. I was underpaid for about 7 or 8 years. I'm from the hood. I thought 80 was killing it. Then I tell a story. I was making $40 an hour, and the guy accidentally sent me the clean rate. My slot was getting paid 150. I was getting 40. I'm like, hey, y'all at least got to give me half. Y'all treat me bad. But like you said, because I didn't know the rates. I didn't do what. But back then it wasn't no Glassdoor. Hell, it was barely Google. Wasn't none of that.
But that's what I mean about Glassdoor. You know how I feel about them.
Facts. Just one of them. I know you like the other
$40,000 to $50,000 under what you're getting. But again,
I was 100 under, Tam. Go ahead. I was 100 under.
So that's why I say I really encourage people to go on and look on look on Levels FYI blind. Start asking people, their rates. Like, what's the best you can do? Like, hey, I want to be at 150 an hour. What's the best you can do? How, what's the closest can you get to that? Some people will come back and say we could do 135, right? I mean, there are some contracts that have gotten to me, and they're like, well, we can do 175, we can do 200, we can do 300. It depends on the contract. It depends on what that looks like. So every, rates can be different. But again, you got to have what your bare minimum is. And and if you walking around with your bare minimum at $40 an hour, again, I'm all about the show and prove, right? Let's pull up our handy dandy calculator.
Yeah.
Right.
But
So
what Tam bringing up Tanny Ken, the other part of that I learned, which makes sense, is there's the prime, and I've seen them 4 levels deep. The lady I work for said, I'm gonna get you with the prime so you can make the most money, because each one of those levels is taking a cut off of that for their company. So the top
they're
you
making
get is
a profit off of it. The goal is to make a profit.
Tell them, Tam. So I don't think a lot of people realize that, though, Tam. They think of this as, oh yeah, we just cool. They paying me a little money, right? They're not thinking it through, right? So you want to get to the top of the pyramid as you can, because they got the biggest bill rate. Everybody else is, every time they take 20% for the company,
every time
pay
they
shrinks.
take $10 or $20 off.
Facts. Go ahead, Tam, with that. I just want to throw that out
there.
there.
So I just did 2080, right? I should have did what, 1960, 1980? Is that what
I used to do 1980, but you're right there.
1980. Let me do 1980. All right. So anyway, 40 times 40 an hour times 2080 is 83,200. So I'm gonna do 40 times 1980. Or would you say 1980 or 1960?
80. I don't know where I got the 80 from. I've been doing 80 for 20 years.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's it.
$79,200. So you have to ask yourself.
Why you say it like that, Tam? You sound like you sad when you say that, Sam. Why you say it's sad? Oh, 79.
But again, you got to look at yourself as a business. So you still got to pay taxes on this money, right?
Facts.
You still got to pay taxes on this money. So, and you still have to ask yourself, is this enough on this? Or another thing we was talking about, is it enough to cover your insurance? Is it enough to cover this? Is it enough for you to take a vacation? What if you take off a week or 2 days or whatever? Is that's coming out of your pocket, right? So now you have to ask yourself, is that enough to cover? Now, if this your side hustle, it's all right.
It's my side hustle, man. But I feel you, man.
If it's your side hustle, it's all right. It's okay.
That's a little steak money, Tam. That's just a little steak money right there. Little steak money.
Right.
That's what we're doing. A little steak money.
I'm gonna go ahead. Let me do this. So 150 a year. What is that? After taxes. Let me clear my screen. So 150 times point, is it 0.7 or 0.65?
I do 0.7, but
0.7. So that's 105 a year.
Because you talking like that's a small tax bracket right there. So don't be too hard.
Divided by 12.
Don't be too hard on.
So that's about $8,700 a month.
Facts.
That's
facts.
Divided up about 4,300 a paycheck.
Right.
And you add in the money that you're making on the side. Again, it depends. Some companies is on the side or let you do 20 hours a week, right? So you may do 20 hours a week at $175 an hour. And then you multiply that by say 4. So that's $14,000 a month, right? Let's say you did that for 6 months.
You can make sure you get your taxes, boy. I did my taxes.
That's $84,000. But again, this is not financial advice.
Oh, facts.
What do you have to write off? Internet, lights.
I never do lights, but go ahead.
Space for your. Well, you gotta.
You can. Lights. My thing is, the only reason I didn't, Tim, I'm not disagreeing with you, is as you well see, my office so small. The time I did doing the paperwork compared to my write-off, it wasn't worth it. By the time
It's always worth it.
no, it wasn't. I promise you. I promise. And two
Even the space, I think you can claim up to what 105 square feet. I don't know. It might have went up.
Yeah, but yeah. The other thing is the only reason I didn't do it at the time is it wasn't a big deal. And they said the odds of you getting audited go up. And my guy said if you get audited, that little money you saved, I'm gonna take it out. But if you got a big space and you running a corporation, right, a different game. But once again, it's not tax advice. I see Tam, she maximizing every dollar. Professor Black Ops was like, yeah, I'm good on that one. So there's many ways to do this and many ways to do it.
All right, this is according to Investopedia, not to the world according to Tam.
Facts. No, I agree. I agree.
Hold on, let's pull this up. It gave 15. Hold on, so let me start back over. It says 15 tax deductions and benefits for self-employed. Know where you can save money and grow your profits. And again, seek a financial advisor or a CPA for this, right? And they talk about who this for: LLCs, partnerships, S corporations, trusts, estates, and sole proprietorships, right? And let's hop down here and let's look and see what they're offering. Entertainment and benefit deduction, employee parking, mass transit, commuting expenses like your car, your gas. Domestic production activities deduction. I don't know what that is. That's new. I don't know what that's classified. Lobbying expenses deduction, state and local tax SALT deduction is now limited to 10,000, 5,000 for the case of being married. Deduction of settlement or legal fees in a sexual harassment case.
Oh my God, no, we ain't gonna need that. Go ahead. we ain't gonna go ahead.
Let's see. All right, here we go. All right, self-employment tax deduction. All right, employers and employees share self-employment tax. Each pays 7.65%. People are usually fully self-employed, pay both parts themselves. An additional 0.9% for Medicare rate applies if the income is above a certain threshold. Married filing jointly, married filing single at 200,000, head of household, and qualifying widower with a dependent of 200,000. Right. So here it says, so if you have 100,000 in self-employment income and your spouse has 160,000 in employee wages, you'll have to pay additional Medicare 0.9% on the 10,000, by which your joint income exceeds the $250,000 threshold. Let me see if they got anything here. Oh, I want the stuff like home office deduction, right? Let me keep going. And they talk about here it is right here. Your home office must be no larger than 300 square feet, right? Another one is internet and phone bills. All right.
I took that.
Healthcare insurance premium deduction.
I did that.
Meals deduction. Right.
I didn't travel very much. I didn't travel very much, so that's my thing.
A meal is a taxable deduction business expense when you're traveling for business, at a business conference, or entertaining a client. The meal cannot be extravagant under certain circumstances, and in the past, you can only deduct 50% of the meals. Right?
No cobay for Tam.
Whatever. Right. Let's go down here. Let me see. I'm trying to see about your meals at home. Well, I think it's when you go out. Travel deduction. All right.
I always try to go to a conference in Vegas so I can write it out. So I could be in a cabana looking like Rick Ross. But go ahead.
That's all right. Vehicle use deduction. When you use your car for business, right?
Extend their mileage.
Right.
I know a guy bought a house from that in the 80s because it used to be crazy expensive in the 80s. Those deductions was huge.
Interest deduction. Interest on the business loan from a bank is a tax deduction if the loan is used for both business and personal. The business portion of the loan interest expense is allocated based on the allocation of the loan proceeds.
Facts.
Publication and subscription deductions. The cost of journals, magazines, books, and I'm gonna assume stuff like what you call it, a cloud guru or Pluralsight could be rolled under this as well too.
I get it from my job, so that's what. But yeah, because they get it as a deduction. That's why they give it to me. Yep.
Yeah, and that's what I be trying to tell people, that 5,280 is part of the deduction that you get from the federal government. That's part of that, right?
Facts.
Any education expenses you want to deduct must be related to maintaining or improving your skills of your existing business. The cost of the classes to prepare for a new line of work isn't deductible. If you're a real estate consultant taking a course in real estate, of course. Here's another one: business insurance deduction, right? You got to have business insurance too, right? When you are self-employed or doing freelance work.
I got an
Rent
umbrella
deduction.
policy too.
If
I got an
you
umbrella policy too. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, if you rent an office space, right? You may have an office space that you rent, right? Startup costs. The IRS usually requires you to deduct major expenses over time rather than all at once as capital expense. However, you can deduct up to 5,000 in startup costs for the first year of active trade of the business.
Facts.
Advertising deduction, Facebook, Google ads, commercial TV, and retirement plan contributions and deduction, right? Again, here we go. The self-employed pension, individual retirement accounts, IRAs, solo 401ks, right? And then they go on some more stuff here. I'll drop this link so y'all can review for yourself. But again, take this information and read through it, especially those that are freelancing or want to freelance, or you want to do some contracting. You don't have to be government contractors, contracting.
No, facts. Because I every now and then I get on Upwork, so I get fired up. So I do some small stuff on Upwork. So
Lynn, what's going on? Nice to see you. It says, what about tax saving utilizing your HSA? I talked about that earlier. Tax savings under your HSA. I put the link in creating wealth inside of the Slack group. Intentional Millionaire was talking about it, the HSA versus the FSA, and then umbrella insurance. So go check out that video, because he talks about, like if somebody comes over to your house or you own a house and they fall and hit the head and go into a coma, they can sue you.
facts.
You don't have any insurance, right? So you need umbrella insurance, right?
I got 2 mil.
Yeah,
and it's really cheap too, because they're gonna make you max out your homeowner's insurance and max out your car. Then my umbrella, 2 million. I think I pay like $70 a month. It's something crazy cheap.
right.
But yeah, so no.
So just stuff you need to be looking at. Also another thing to look at too is I need for y'all to also start looking at, and I talked about this last night, is how you see yourself, right? We talk about getting this money, but you may want to get the money from being a business, or you may want to do part-time work on the side, and then the part-time work doesn't necessarily have to be all technical. You could write ebooks, you could do pamphlets, you could do content creation for a channel or what have you. You just never know, right?
I do. My side work is really cyber insurance, so it's really just paperwork. We're gonna scan your system, figure out what your vulnerabilities, write up your system security plan, write up your policies and procedures, help you do mitigated controls. I usually don't touch people's system like that anymore. My thing is to help you because somebody's usually trying to do some HIPAA work or do some government work, so they need that paperwork. So that's how I make my side money.
Now, did you get certified in order to do that?
No, I just tell people I work for DOD for 10 years and your certifications ain't got nothing on me, and they hire me anyway. Nope. Okay. So I tell them I'm about that DOD life. As you well know, most people doing the STIGs or the CIS, and they have no idea how to do 5,000 checks, and they're just overwhelmed.
All right.
So no, that's what I'm studying for my CISP, but I don't really have any. I got a Security Plus certification. That's it. So that's all I got.
But again, I just want to I still have stuff. I know we've been on for a minute. I'm trying to think, is anything in here that I wanted you to know that is on the side. Let me pull these things up real quick. So this right here, Why should we use Terraform and Terragrant? I'll drop this in our Terraform channel.
Fine.
I just
It's
wanted
it's the bomb, and you make money, and you don't want to do shit by hand. So you got to do something. You got to do CloudFormation, Terraform, Ansible. I mean, there's a couple things out, but I mean, chime in, Tim. It's really your world, but you got to do something with automation. If you
yeah, I mean that's why I had on that on my GitHub this morning. Let me look. Let me see. I'm trying to get to my GitHub. This will probably take me there, but it's okay.
While you doing, I'm responding. My umbrella policy is who I got my car insurance and my home insurance. So you can do State Farm, any of those big companies that give you umbrella policy. Because it's if you have it all under one insurance company, add an umbrella policy on there. It's going to be the cheapest and the easiest to do. Once again, they're going to tell you to bump up your homeowners, like Cam said it. So if they file, that can handle most of it in year 2 or 4 million on top of that. Or if Tam's rolling down, she's a car person, she running the back of the Bentley, right? Her car insurance gonna cover up, but the umbrella gonna cover the rest of the Bentley that we don't want to wish any umbrella. Yeah, the Bentley she gonna did up. We don't want to wish no ill to Tam, but if she swipe a Bentley what, $500,000? I mean,
it depends on when you get it. When you get it from.
So your car usually covers up to 100,000, but when you hit an exotic car, you're gonna need some umbrella insurance, right?
I mean, there is one out there for 169.
So you're fact. So you're gonna need that extra umbrella insurance because the car insurance ain't gonna be enough. You're gonna need a little umbrella. They're gonna be suing Tam for some of that bare metal money she be making on the side. That's why she need that umbrella. Go ahead.
I am a broke college student. Okay.
That is incorrect.
No, that is correct. No, I am a broke college student. I live my life for brokenness. That's what I do. All right, so this is the link that I was talking about earlier with my GitHub stuff with RHCSA, the infrastructure. This link is out there. It's been out there for 3 years. I need to update it. There are the slides as well too. And you can start looking at those slides and stuff like that. And I just got some info. Right, SRA Video Go-To Conference, Learn HashiCorp Services, their documentation, Kubernetes the hard way, just different diverse platforms, free training for women, cybersecurity, YouTubes we follow, and so forth. And here's a mind map that I had started doing and stuff like that. And I posted the link to the mind map as well too, right? So it's just something you can use. The other one, this other link is Linux networking. It was doing a deep dive on networking. They talk about the OSI model here, and then they break down the OSI model and the TCP/IP model, and then they talk about the Linux network stack, right? Here, and I thought this was cool for people to understand how networking and Linux work. When you're looking at the Ethernet card, I want to do a deep dive on this. I'll save this for next week, so we can do a deeper dive on it. And then I had this. Speaking of cars,
you going deep dive in that next week down to the Ether card, down to the bare metal of the Ether card.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
I don't know if y'all caught this. The burning ship that's out in the Atlantic that's burning Porsches. I don't know if y'all saw this. It's a ship that's on fire. Right here. Let me see if I can. Yeah, see, it's on fire. It's sunk. So people are like geared up to go out to see if they can get one of those Porsches that landed in the water. So people who have been waiting on their Porsches all these months, Porsche has stopped production. Now they got to spin up production again because the Porsches are on fire, right?
Is that stealing though? If you go down there and get the Porsche, is that stealing?
I don't know. International waters? Is it a treasure hunt at that point?
That sounds a little shady, but go ahead, Tel. That sounds a little shady. That's all I'm asking.
Oh yeah, you can join the stream live if you need to, Coda Ellen. Yeah. Here is another stuff that I wanted to bring up. I should probably do another show. So we can go into these links.
I'm gonna have to invite you on my show because I think I'm gonna do digital nomad.
Okay.
Kind of using the stuff you do, but I'm gonna just kind of talk about, which I'm probably sure you talk about, how to actually win a bid, because it took me forever to try to figure. Because when you do Upworks or the other one, you've been against people around the world. I used to do Oracle work and make 6 figures a year. People were doing that shit for $10 an hour on Upworks. I'm like, I'm gonna have to pick another domain because the dollar is strong around the world. So stuff you think you get paid in the United States, when people in India, Africa, and these these people have PhDs and they charging $12 an hour to do programming.
That's why for me it ain't worth it.
Facts, you gotta find and even in the security domain, like you said, it's probably 50 or 60, little lunch money. What I want to do, and I probably work with y'all, is get some students with me to get them into insurance, cyber insurance and compliance as code, and maybe help me do those projects so they can learn and get some stuff to put in their
let's get
portfolio.
Together. Let's get together and do that.
All right. We'll chop it up.
Yeah. All right. So this rookie program from Rock IT Data is a rookie program for military veterans and spouses. It aims to provide military veterans and spouses technical skills and equipment for flexible careers. This cohort is built for military veterans and spouses of all backgrounds to provide training with hands-on experience in a fast-paced growing market industry through Salesforce and AWS technologies. So they're doing the cloud practitioner, the Connect, Amazon Connect training, AWS professional, especially training and certification, Salesforce admin, and shadow technical teams for hands-on experience and building. You meet 20 hours a week, and it's contract to hire. And I'll get this link to Dee, and she can drop this in the chat for you all if you all are interested.
And two is when you're a military, you get first dibs on a lot of those jobs when you apply to a military installation. They give you points in a military background. You get a lot of points. So when they come up with the candidate, I think it's 10 points out of 100 is military. I need to double check that, but there are military points for those jobs. Right. My bad, Tim. Go ahead.
You're fine. So I talked to the people at SANS.org, and they have a scholarship system set up for HBCU students. If you are an alumni of an HBCU, you can also apply for this scholarship. It is, blow that up because I know it probably looks small. It is, the applications are for the Cyber Academy will be open throughout the Black History Month and accepted until March the 1st of 2022. The SANS HBCU Cyber Academy provides scholarships to currently enrolled junior, senior, graduate students of HBCUs and HBCU alumni who have a passion for cybersecurity. Really wanted to get this out there. There's 600,000 jobs being unfulfilled for cybersecurity in the United States. So if we can get people into that, that'd be great. Let me click on here so you can go and check it out. Here is the curriculum. So let's go here, curriculum right here. All right, so the curriculum required courses are the 275 foundations, and then the security essentials and GSET. And then after passing the required courses, you pick one of the courses, whether you want to do blue team fundamentals, cloud security essentials, or incident handling, or SCADA security essentials. My recommendation for those that are like leaning towards the DevSecOps realm would be the 488. If you're leaning towards more security, I would look at the blue team. Any other recommendations you think you would recommend for this?
No, I think you hit them all, to be honest. Okay. Like I said, I would just get in there and do it. That's it, really. You just got to get in there and start.
Right. I wanted y'all to have that information. Like I said, I had a lot of information for the show. Yeah, this is just this show. The other show, I still have information, but it's all good. All right, so here's another scholarship, 2022 Research Science Intern, aerospace, deep learning, industrial engineering, machine learning, operations research, quantum robotics, right? This is from Amazon. Basic qualifications, enrolled in a PhD program or equivalent in engineering, technology, science, operations, research, robotics, so forth. And they have a whole list and they have a preferred set of qualifications. I'm gonna drop all this stuff inside of the Slack group, so don't worry about it. Um, for those of you that ever want to go work at HashiCorp, which is the owner of Terraform, right? That falls under the Terraform umbrella. I saw this link and I thought it was interesting. Here is here's their leave policy. So you get 4 weeks of paid vacation, 10 paid company holidays. You get 3 weeks of paid leave if an employee or a spouse experiences a miscarriage. You get 10 days of sick leave and up to 5 days of paid leave in case of an emergency circumstances or excuse me situations. They are remote first. You get 8 weeks of paid leave of 100% salary for new parents, 6 to 8 weeks of additional recovery time for birthing parents, and you get paid 100% of your salary. And then you get 10,000 reimbursement through carrot rewards for family expansion benefits such as adoption expenses, infertility treatments, egg freezing, or surgeries. So I wanted to highlight that for those that are, interested in having kids and looking for companies and want to get that, um, want to have kids and want to know what companies are good. Microsoft has a good policy as well too. See scholarships. All right, okay. Here is some salaries here. All right, what do software engineers get paid? This came out January of 2021. In 2020, engineers at Lyft claimed the highest salaries at entry level, with LinkedIn topping the charts for experienced engineers. All right, so let's go here. Lyft, let's see. Lyft looks like in 2020 at 236, Roblox at 222, Stripe at 223, Airbnb 232, and LinkedIn at 210. For engineers with 2 to 5 years of experience, Airbnb's package of 295 put them in first place, though that number dropped substantially from 334,000 in 2019. For engineers with 5 years of experience, LinkedIn took the top spot at 461,000. Top employees are software engineers with 2 to 5 years of experience. 275 for, and this is of 2020. If you look right here, it's 2020, and so I'm going with the light green. 2020 at 275. 294 at Pinterest. I knew they were getting paid. Box 290, 290 at Lyft, and 291 at Stripe. 5 more years, 430 at LinkedIn, 400 at Netflix, at 505 at Pinterest, Stripe at 443, Airbnb at 400,000, and this was as of 2020. So at 2022, I think we'll probably see some differences here due to inflation. And these were the top salaries around the different metropolitan areas. Again, this came out, like I said, in 2020. So this is, 2020. So this has changed. But I just wanted to give you some reference here when we're talking about numbers, right? And this is from IEEE. Again, like I said, you can come here and look at this. This is 2022 AI machine learning salaries dropped. I posted this a while ago. They're showing here AI and machine salaries. Here programming, and see these numbers are low to me, but hey, because they're in the ones, and I don't believe that's true in some of these cases. But I think these are probably on average. All right, let me see. All right. So I think this came from Angela Brown. Um, oh, did I miss it? Oh, y'all got 3 days. February through February 22nd. Save up to 50% on Linux training and certification from the Linux Foundation. So if you're looking to move careers, here you go. I'll drop this inside of the chat. You all can go check this out. I just wanted to make sure that it got mentioned. I'll drop it there. All right. And last but not least, oh no, let me see. Oh yeah, here we go. Call for proposals. So they're having a call for proposals. The CFP opened up on the 19th of January, closes on the 14th, for the open source summit. Check it out. Yeah, not that. Yeah, that's why I said engineering camp is just not true on AI machine learning. Some of those even though those companies, and I hate when people bring that up, like those companies are stationed in California. Not every company pays you based upon the city in which you live in. That's not
Yeah.
all companies. So some companies pay you based on your experience, but then you also have to be an advocate for yourself, right? So if you're a machine learning engineer, right, and you're living in Mobile, Alabama, and they offer you 90,000, but the people that you work with are making 400,000, you're gonna have a problem with it. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you say. So I think you have to find the company that's not willing to pay you based upon where you live at. And there are companies out there. And we talked about this. You got to be willing to walk away. And you also got to advocate for yourself. So not all companies pay you based on where you live. So that's another thing that you have to ask. So that's not always true, right? That's not always true. So again, I mean, whatever. Because I worked with companies in California and they pay me just like California. So, whatever. All right. So Netflix, um, right here. So everybody always talks about diversity. So Netflix workforce is the most diverse. It's been a while. It's 52% female and 11% black, where the ongoing average has been around about anywhere from two. It's been about 2%, or maybe probably about 1%. But overall, in Silicon Valley, it's been 4%. Right. And last but not least, I want to bring. Let me see this up. Total on it's tech related, but not. Meta axes the head of global community after he appears on the video for underage sex theme. And, and I wanted to bring this up.
Oh my God.
Here it is right here. In
Come
case
on,
you all are
Blair.
wondering. Oh, let me
No.
click on the link. Hold on. It's actually a link. Oh, come on, link. That's fine. Let me go to videos. It's a video of it. Did they take it down?
They probably take it down, man.
I think they took it down. I don't think they took it down. Oh, here you go. Yeah. Let me fast forward so y'all can see his face. There you go. That's the guy. That is him.
Oh my God.
Yep. Let's see. His name is Jaron, I think it's Jaron A. Miles, who had been a manager of the global community development, is no longer employed by the company after the video went viral on YouTube, which was posted on Reddit and other sites featuring him in a sting operation conducted by amateurs with the intent of catching pedophiles. You know what pedophiles is?
Not
Well,
amateurs. The amateurs didn't catch him, did they? Not the amateurs. Come
right.
on.
All right, all right.
Man.
And here it is. He was in as, but it does feature two people questioning Miles, who is of course, who in the course of the interrogation admits to having graphic and inappropriate communications with a 13-year-old boy.
I don't even know what to say to that, Tim. I ain't got any comments for that one.
Hey, tech news. It's tech news. Okay.
Man, the world is an ugly place, man. That's
All
all I
right.
got.
Your folks at Walmart said it's expanded into autonomous delivery pilot with General Motors Cruise this year. Cruise plans to expand the self-driving delivery pilot it has with Walmart in Arizona. The company's senior government affairs manager said in a recent public meeting with state legislators, the autonomous vehicle company, which is a subsidiary of General Motors, is mostly focused on testing and eventually launching a robo taxi service in California. But Cruise also has a small fleet of electric autonomous Chevy Bolts in Arizona as part of the limited program which Walmart has. So again, there'll be autonomous delivery, right? You won't be you'll be ordering from Walmart, and somebody's gonna load up a car and deliver you something, right? That's all I had. That's all I had. I mean, I had more, but it's all good. Some of it can wait for next week. It's all good. If anyone want to still come up, now's your chance before we get up out of here. I hope this was informative for you. You had the agile coaching, you had the conference talked about. You also had an idea of sprint. We gave you some salaries. We talked about some vineyards today and how you can own some vineyards, some rental properties. We didn't talk about hotels. We did talk about farmland. So what else? What else do you have left? Just Jay, we're gonna get with you. I saw you in the comments. I didn't forget you. Um, let's see. I'm trying to see if anything else.
The
That's
only
right.
thing, the
Go
only
ahead.
thing else maybe for another show time is, and I'm sure you probably got that in the Slack group, is Agile, like we talked about, when you have OS top 10 web and application checks and infrastructure checks from an Agile perspective, like you said, should be able to kind of map out what that should look like. I know it varies depending on your company, but what's
Mhm.
your thought patterns? Don't do it now because I'm about to take a nap. But later on another show, I think we need to drill down into that because, as you well know, part of being a good SA infrastructure that is working with the development teams, making it seamless, and so that
Mhm.
kind of whole process. Like I said, we we made it work like a sausage, but I don't think we did it quite right. So what would that look like? I guess in a professional company, probably in a big organization, because they're going to use the Terraforms, the hashes to make sure most of that's automated. So
Well, here's the other thing too that people got to be aware of. One team may use Terraform, another team may use Cloud
fast,
Formation.
fast.
Somebody over here may use Ansible. Somebody over there may
Yeah,
use
let's just talk about the
Robo.
process at the high level. When you hit the button, the automation's gonna happen. It could be cloud formation, hashing, Terraform, corn shell scripts. We're not gonna worry about how it's gonna. We're gonna know that part's happening. But in the agile world, what does that look like? Like you said, is that a security check? Is that a infrastructure check? And in automation, how do you put that in? Of course, we're gonna have some automation. Compliance is code
Well,
in there to make sure we
testing,
did it
right?
right. Go ahead.
Testing, unit
Test it right.
testing,
Go ahead.
integration testing,
Fine.
functionality
All of
testing.
that.
Like,
Right.
we got different things there.
Fine. Facts. Well, let's bring that up on. I know you got 40,000 shows planned. Just throw that into one of them shows.
You know what?
We can talk about it.
You know what? We want to allow you to hate on the broke college students. So
nah, man, that ain't you though, man. That's why you need that umbrella. That umbrella. I want D to doze off and swipe the Bentley. We want to make sure she covered. D in the background. I want to make sure D's covered. I want D to doze off.
Look how she do you.
Yeah, I'm looking out for D. Why D treat me like that? I'm making sure D's okay, man. I mean, D doze off.
D was like, let me drop you out of
here. Yeah, D be treating me wrong. See, I D treat a brother. But so, we make sure everybody's covered. But
what's going on, Vladimir? What's going on, Lynn? I see you out there. Sorry, you're welcome. I hope y'all got something good out of this. If not, go back and rewatch it. I think it's worth rewatching this show and the last show. You got a lot of good gems, a lot of different ways to invest. Like I say, you don't have to listen to me for investment advice. I'm just putting the information out here for you to utilize it, go research it, go play with it. Like I told you, I haven't played with arrived homes, but I'm gonna go play with it, and I'm gonna go drop $100 on somebody's house, and then let the chips fall where they may. Right? I'm just gonna see what does it do? How does it work? Right? Feel free.
Hold on, let me respond to Lynn Engineer. Yes, there's corn shell scripts still used out here, Lynn Engineer. I promise you, I've seen some. Don't hate on the corn shell.
corn, bash, and seed.
Facts, all that. We love corn where I'm at. We got a whole bunch of corn shell doing a little encryption for some files. Facts.
Right. And assembly. Hell, the IRS is still on the assembly.
Oh my God. I hate these. So I'm about to drop it. I'm going to have an IRS audit for the next 2 weeks. That's one reason I look like this. They just asking deep questions, and we're like, we don't know. So yeah, shout out to the IRS.
All right. Well, people, I appreciate you for coming through. I appreciate you for coming up on stage.
Always.
For those that didn't want to come on stage, remember, I may start up a Clubhouse. I don't know. Go follow us on Clubhouse. It depends on how I feel. Depends on what it is. I just may randomly start up one. A lot of time people were like, well, what you going to talk about? I don't know.
Facts.
I don't know. It's just whatever floats my boat at the time. Somebody might have pissed me off when I'm reading some of these comments, or somebody hit me up in Slack and tell us we trashed. I might hop on link. I might hop on Clubhouse. Say it with your chest, young lady.
Facts. I'm right there with you, man. I went live and we got on a whole nother thing, man. So I feel it just, like you said, just takes you where it takes you.
It takes you where it takes you.
Facts.
All right, everybody. I'll catch y'all next. I'll catch you on Friday. If not, I'll catch you on Clubhouse. And I'll catch you on Wednesday too. And let us know if you need anything. Drop it in the Slack and hit us up. Until then, everybody be safe.